Hey,
Hey,
how are you, mate?
how you doing? I'm good.
Can you
I'm
hear
really
and see me clearly? Actually, you know what? This is the first Instagram live collab I've done.
good. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So
Well, I'm privileged and honored to be the one you chose to do
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So cool.
It's hopefully it's all working well. If it's not, I'm gonna look like an old timer going, how does this thing work again? Oh, yeah.
Well, you connected fine
Okay,
so far.
great.
We'll see if there's any technical difficulties as we go through.
Yeah. Well,
But
hopefully,
all good.
yeah, cool. Thanks for having me on, mate. It's good to see you.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. I did catch you at your gig at
Yeah,
Bulli last year, and it was amazing. I got some cool
yeah,
footage, an awesome guitar solo.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll,
So it was really awesome.
I think we um our paths not yeah so the first time you first gig you came to mine was probably you supporting Kingfish, was it?
Kingfish, yes, yes, because we collabed on that awesome solo you did on I can't remember the name of the song, but it was sort of a full
Yeah,
breakdown, and you just
on
shredded
Fire.
it. And
Man on
so,
Fire.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one. Yeah, yeah.
That's always a fun one.
I was like,
That's the song at the end of the set when you go beyond all your nerves and anxieties. All right, we're here, we're approaching the end of the set now. Anything can happen in the best possible way.
yeah. Oh man, I loved it, man. It's cool because every time you play, it's something different every time. It's not like play the same whole thing.
Oh, thanks, man.
It's sort of you reach that level, and it's exciting. It's what I love about the blues because it's more, the emotion gets into it, and it's almost like you're singing, isn't it? Would you say,
Yeah,
rather than just arpeggios and full on shredding all the time, which is I have nothing against. I love
yeah.
just the same, but
Well, I
yeah.
think I mean my dad taught me for years. He was my guitar teacher right up until I was at probably my late teen years. Maybe as soon as I started listening to Nirvana, he kind of backed away into the shadows a little bit. And but he was always just talking about you got to tell a story, like and a lot of the guitar players that I grew up listening to, they all told stories, even if they were wailers, even if they were shredders. I mean, Jeff Healey was one of my favorite aggressive rock blues shredders. And when you listen to his solos, like on "See the Light" and "Confidence Man" and all that type of stuff, even though he's wailing, he's not just wailing without purpose. It's going somewhere. It's speaking. It's whining. It's screaming. And so I think no matter what style you are, they're the guitarists that probably excite me the most or move me in here is when there's some sort of a story. So if that makes any sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Mm.
Totally. I'm with you on that. Um, then you got ones like Steve Vai, like and Joe Satriani. They tell stories, but in a more
100%.
complex sort of way, which is just as amazing to me. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah. Well, I
yeah.
mean, some of the shredders, I agree. They're all they're the ones that take you on a journey, and they're not just it's not just about the flair.
Mm.
They move you in different ways as well. I mean, I really in a more accessible sort of way. I mean, that's what I loved about Slash. Like he could
Mm.
shred like crazy, but it didn't mean he's always used it. Like he used it
Mm.
purposefully, and yeah. So
Mm. No, when he needs to go melodic, then he brings those minor pentatonics into play, and
yeah,
those bends, like he really knows how to get that
oh
emotion out of his songs, the
yeah,
epic ones as
yeah,
well. Yeah,
yeah.
that's what I loved. So you got a long history in Australia. Now you're only actually a couple of years older than me, but you know how it is when you're younger. I'm watching Hey Hey It's Saturday, and I see this kid, and it's like, oh, older ones always seem a bit older, when you're younger,
Mm.
isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
oh man, who's this guy? And this other kid, and you were playing, and it was just breathtaking. Just the memories. Just for those of you that don't know, Hey Hey It's Saturday was a variety show in Australia through what the 70s, 80s, and early 90s.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, they had the best music, the best entertainment that Australia could provide.
Yeah, yeah.
It was good for
And it was a show like we don't have anything like that in a sense. Any touring act, whether local or international, you always did Hey Hey Saturday. They showcased not only like musicians and different types of artists, but not just ones that were in the top 10. You know, like they featured artists that had cult followings or a little bit different. I mean, I had no following, you know, when I was on there, and I definitely wasn't in the top 10. And they were just, you know, they were just all about talent and entertainment, and yeah, it was a really special time for Australian TV, I think.
Mm. No, I totally agree. We've never had anything like it really
No.
since. Just a mix of entertainment, all aspects. You know, it wasn't just music. It was
Mm.
uh, Molly with the entertainment,
Yeah.
red faces, and anyway, it was really cool growing up with it. Dickie Knee,
Yeah.
who was always a crack up. Now, just give us well, those who don't know you or need a reminder of who you are, give us a brief sort of backstory about your sort of entering the spotlight from when at such a young age. Like, how old were you?
Well, I would say the first time the public saw me on TV would have been about 7. I was 7, and that was so like you know, I got photos of me playing a ukulele when I was 3. Like I definitely had a natural passion for the guitar, and my work ethic was natural. But if you ask my parents, my ability wasn't. Which people kind of see a lot of that footage for me when I was really young and go, you're natural," and my dad would always shake his head and go, you weren't, you didn't pick it up, and you didn't just play, and you didn't. It came from you just. It was just time with the instrument. You just buried yourself in your room, or you're out in the living room, and you're just mimicking everything you would hear, and you spent hours on it. And then when I pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed, then he kind of spent the time to kind of, because I was hungry for it, to then create schedules for me to stick to, and then I would just practice, and my skills would evolve. But I diagnosed with leukemia when I was 6, and I'm really grateful that my dad taught me how to play guitar to a certain point anyway, so early, because I feel like it served me during my treatment really well, like, because it was a means to be able to express myself in a way that words couldn't, and it was an anchor for me. And during that period, the Starlight Foundation granted me a wish to meet Martin Knopfler, and because he was my number one, like Dire Straits, man. Like, it's I most of what I listened to was blues at the time, but I don't know, Martin Knopfler just did something to me. And I even reflecting now as an adult, I've got 2 kids and 2 boys, and I do find it a little unique that a kid as fiery as what I was liked something so laid back, because Martin Knopfler's a very, sparse, spacious player, melodic and quite mature, and I didn't just like songs like Money for Nothing because of the cool dirty riffs and stuff like that. It's like I loved Brothers in Arms and Sultans of Swing, and I don't know, and probably the memories attached to it helped as well. So I got to meet him, and that's when the media came into it, because they covered that journey, and that's how I ended up on Hey Hey all the time and Midday Show, and then that's kind of what gave me the platform to then start touring with Jimmy and Diesel, and then onwards to the States. So to the US, where I spent probably a good 4 or 5 of my years during that period, living backwards and forwards between LA and Sydney.
Mm. So you also got signed by Michael Jackson's label MJJ
Yeah.
Records, is it? MJJ?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did that come about? So you're obviously a young talent. You're reaching the other side of the world. You know, in the days before social media, obviously. What happened there? Like, tell us about that.
Yeah. When I was 10, so Jimmy Barnes here in Australia, we were on the same Hey Hey It's Saturday episode for one of them. And his wife had a label, and uh, and so they signed me with Mushroom Records, and then offered us the opening slot for his tour for Soul Deep. And so Diesel was supporting Jimmy, and then I would open before Diesel, and 5 weeks on the road. I mean, my parents said, my dad played music as a hobby, but he knew nothing about the industry. Nobody knew anything about the industry in the family. And then one day they'd just been told that, all right, if you want this, like, you've got it, but you're going to have to put together a band. And my dad's like, all right, well, and he's a bricklayer, so he's like, okay, all right, we're going to put together a band. And then he goes to his mates at work, and he's like, boys, anyone know how to play bass? We need a bass player. And, one of the brickies goes, yeah, man, I know how to play bass. All right, well, let's have a little jam. And I remember his name is Peter, and Peter the bricklayer. And so he was my bass player. And then we couldn't find a drummer, so we used Jimmy's drum tech for a while, and then a girl that he was doing martial arts with. And Dad was desperately trying to find a rhythm guitarist, because he had a huge fear of the stage. That's why I think in the early days he did have ideas of wanting to perform on stage, but just it didn't work for him, and so he had to confront that, because he couldn't find a rhythm guitarist. So he ended up being my rhythm guitar player, and at the end of that tour, 5-week tour, which, by the way, was a huge learning curve for me. Obviously, that's when I met the guy who became, his name was Russell Haywood. He became my manager in America, an Australian guy who actually did. I don't know if you remember the old Rebel guitar comp. No. So basically, they used to. I mean, I wouldn't have remembered it if it wasn't for me knowing him. But it was around our time when we were kids. And at Selena's at Coogee Bay Hotel, they used to have these Rebel guitar competitions. And that's where, like, I think one of them, Jamie Wilson, and a guitar player called Jamie Wilson, won it, and went on to do a lot of amazing things. And it was a big thing. Like, all your Australian guitar players and shred heads and all that, they all entered this competition, Rebel Guitar Comp. And so he was the one who created that. And he actually went overseas, and he was brought over by Guitar Player magazine to do their 25th anniversary performance, and they needed something a little different for because they had Steve Morse and Ry Cooder and John Lee Hooker, and God, his stories on how he was able to convince John Lee Hooker to be a part of this are bloody hilarious. I probably can't repeat them, but anyway, so at the end of Jimmy's tour, he was there, and he's like, man, I want you to come over. And so that was my first experience in America, was San Francisco, playing Guitar Player 25th anniversary, Greg Allman, and Frank Gambale, and a whole heap of amazing guitar players. And then on that next day, Albert Collins had heard about me, and so he invited me up on stage to play at San Francisco Blues Festival. So those were my first two performances in America. And then we ended up, and it was actually, again, San Francisco, a local blues club, Blues at Lose. They had me back a few times, and I was selling them all out. And then that's when, so Michael Jackson, Madonna, and Prince, and George Michael, they all had labels, and they all heard about what I was doing. And then, it was a big bidding war between all of them. And we went with Michael Jackson's label. So, I mean, I didn't even know at the time who Prince was. Like, I had no idea, But it's pretty
That's
surreal.
cool.
And that's how I got signed to MJJ.
Amazing. Amazing. So you obviously word got around over there like wildfire. This young kid, this young, let's say, white kid from Australia, from down under,
Yeah,
playing the blues, a lot of soul,
yeah,
like 8 to 10 years old. It was obviously a fascinating thing for people to see and to watch, and it was a quite a big thing, wasn't it? Because you were on a late night over there, like our senior hall show and Conan O'Brien.
yeah,
Is that right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. Like,
like how crazy
well,
was it for you?
it was an interesting time because when I signed the deal with MJJ and we did the album, and just as we were marketing it, the first of his allegations came out, and here I am. I'm a 12-year-old kid, and these allegations have come out, and so the record company have just gone, we don't want you to get involved with this. So they had bigger plans on how to market this, and it was terrible, obviously terrible timing, and the whole thing was a bit of a mess. But I'm personally surprised that they will. I think what their ideas were probably a lot more collaborative with Michael, and whether it's touring, and I mean, I did perform with him once in New York, and but yeah, Conan O'Brien, A Senior Hall, Good Morning America. It was wild, and like the as I began to learn a bit more about blues history, I'm pretty flattered that they, like, America kind of accepted me, into that world. Like, I when I was in some of these blues clubs, there's, some real heavy hitters there, that welcomed me onto the stage with them. And when I'm just a kid from Campbelltown,
Amazing. Yeah. And what about so you're obviously getting quite popular over in the States, early 90s, but then BB King,
Mm,
you he grew a liking to you, right? Like sort of your style and what you were all about. Like and you toured with
yeah,
him for weeks, right? So I mean that is just
yeah,
crazy, man. BB King.
yeah. I mean, I find it actually kind of funny how that came about, because it's you wouldn't have thought that how that could come about was via a McDonald's commercial. Like, you'd like to be able to say that, I was playing in Mississippi, and and BB heard, and he came to the pub, and to the bar and stuff and everything. But nah, it was we came together because of McDonald's. And
I
then,
remember that ad. I
yeah,
remember
yeah,
that ad.
and then so we worked together on that, and then he obviously saw what I was doing, and and then it went from that to to me touring with him, and he invited me on. So yeah, for about 4 weeks around America on his tour at the time in 1994, I believe, I think it was 94, 95. He'd get me up on stage for 2 to 3 songs a night in the middle of his set. Rock Me Baby, Thriller's Gone, and again, I mean, I understood what a big deal it was, but I didn't really understand. I mean, like, everyone kept going on around me about, like, man, you're playing Madison Square Garden with BB King, and I didn't know what Madison Square Garden was, and to me, it was just another gig and don't get me wrong, I wasn't not grateful. Like, I just fully didn't understand the epicness and the magnitude of what was going on, and and I still can't. It's still kind of quite surreal. And then after that tour, uh, we were on an episode of Baywatch together. That was funny. And then yeah, and then the next year I got a call. We got a call from his management saying that he was getting a Kennedy Award, and he wanted me to be one of the performers to perform to celebrate his award, and that so I went to the White House, and that's where I shook hands with the Clintons, and then off to the Kennedy Center, and and I think we're sitting at the table with Etta James's family, and then and then I was up on stage with it was Bonnie Raitt, Etta James, uh, Steve Cropper, Dr. John, and Joe Louis Walker, and that's that was and I was old enough to like I was terrified before I went on that stage. Like that was I remember Steve Martin, the actor, he was the one who threw me off a little bit.
Too funny.
No, he said something side of stage to me, and that kind of because at this time, like I was like, I think I was about 14, 13 or 14. So that's a tough age, you know. Like you're a teenager, you're at high school. It's about year 8, year 9. Everyone's smart asses, and trying to tear you down, and fighting for their own strengths and confidence and stuff like that. So I was my insecurities were well set in, like they were really starting to show. I wasn't not that I was ever cocky or anything like that, but I was confident in what I did. But then you hit high school and that can kind of change. And I remember, I mean, I'm laughing at it now, and I know he didn't mean anything by it, but I was just about to go on, and he was there, I think, celebrating an award for Sidney Poitier, and then at the time, Peavey, because I was signed to Peavey, they had created my signature guitar, right? And instead of putting the signature down the end, like at the headstock, they put it on the arm of the top arm of the guitar and the arch, and so like I hold my guitar, and Steve Martin goes, "Hey, little man, like who's that signature, And oh no, that's right. He goes, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Oh, I'm performing for BB King." He's like, "Huh, wow, that's cool. And whose signature is that?" And I knew as he asked that, I just went and I said, "Oh, that's mine." And I had this voice in my head go, you're carrying around a guitar with your own bloody signature. You tosser, right? That comes from high school." And Steve Martin's face was a little bit like that. He's like, "Oh, okay." Ooh, and then just poked this weird face and walked away. And I kind of that really, I know that knocked my confidence out a little bit. And then they announced me, and here he is, Nathan Cavalieri, so that was a weird moment. And then I kind of had to just focus on the music, and it was but it yeah.
You got through it though. You got through it though, right?
You always get through it, and it was
Yeah,
a really
yeah.
special moment. I mean. And I loved watching, really, really loved watching Bonnie Raitt do her thing, like on that stage, like, and then she stepped up, and all she had was like she was playing through, I think, a Fender Twin, and a Boss compressor pedal, and that was her, and that gave her that slide, that the Lowell George compressed, a bit Raikuda sort of thing going on, and yeah. Kind of a reminder that you don't need the fancy boutique pedals. Sometimes just the Boss pedal is the thing that does it. Quite often.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah. What an experience. Just among greatness, at such a young age, it's really very unique, I have to say. I'm sure what an experience for you, but it changed, right? So you went through after your last album, and then what happened to you? Because you had a lot of anxiety, like severe anxiety, right, to get up on stage even. But there are other things that led to it. Can you explain to us your mindset during that time when things took a sudden turn?
Yeah. I think I mean I didn't really have problems with the head until probably my mid to late 20s. Like I feel like in reflection is like most of us don't really understand our minds and our bodies, when we're teenagers, and unless we're specifically taught, like it's not something that necessarily comes naturally. And then, but you've got all this adrenaline, you're charged, and that trajectory of adrenaline takes you probably through your early 20s, maybe into your mid 20s, and then big adult problems start happening. And not saying that I didn't have my problems growing up. I did, having leukemia and a whole bunch of other things that were going on. But you get through it, and you got the safety of your home and your parents and everything. But you're out in the big wide world when you're in the 20s, and your body starts waving flags, and if you don't know how to listen to those signals, eventually you're going to come crashing down, which is what happened to me in my mid-20s. It was I had a lot of, I was losing lots of friends around me, like whether it was mentors. That's an interesting thing about being working as a child in the music industry. Your the ones that are championing you are generally 20 plus years older than you, 20, 30 years older than you. So you're going to, and when you're surrounded by that, and that's a good part of the fabric of your world, you're going to experience mortality and face that a lot earlier than what a lot of other people will, because, fast forward when, if I'm, in my mid to late 20s, right, those people are in their 50s and 60s. So, I started losing people, which was kind of then making me freak out about my own mortality. Maybe call it a little bit of latency from going through leukemia. I don't know, but I didn't really know how to process it. And all I knew is that I was just feeling. I was having all this. I didn't even know what the anxiety was. It was just like I would feel these sensations and freak out about them. It felt like they came out of nowhere. And then, and wherever they would happen, I would then veer away from that situation. You know what I mean? Like, so if I was at the shops and I would feel, what I now know is, an anxiety attack, then the shop is the problem. So I wouldn't go back into that shop again. And then and then it would happen over here, and then wouldn't go over there. And then maybe it would happen, having a drink with a mate. So now I stopped drinking. Like whatever it was, it's like, bit by bit, running away from that until eventually it happened on stage. And I tried to, because obviously going through what I've gone through, the stage is like, nothing can with the stage. Like I was touring while I was being treated for leukemia, so I can push through anything to get up on stage. And so I kept pushing back on it. I wouldn't, like, if it would happen just before I go on stage, I wouldn't let it, like, I'd keep going and going. But my lack of education on how to handle it is why it all turned because, and eventually, I had a moment on a festival stage where, and this was like 2-3 years into having insomnia and anxiety attacks and averaging three hours sleep, depleted, where I tried to tour, and then I'd get up on stage and then I'd have a blackout, and then the stage just got corrupted then, and then it became a real massive source of anxiety, and it took away any understanding of what the normal, any understanding and connection with what is completely normal with getting up on stage. The adrenaline, the sensations, the height and elevator, the trippiness, all that stuff that comes with getting up on stage was now corrupted, was now a bad thing, was now a sign of danger. So I took about 5 years off, and that's when my world was tiny. But that's also a time where I got educated, because I didn't want to just take a pill. I wanted to work out what was going on with me so I could fix it. And it was a longer road, but I have a better understanding of everything because of it. So.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, so what was the timeline? So, because your last album before your one in 2020 was 1993, right? Is that right? That was
Well, yeah. What a lot of people
your
don't
one.
know is
Yeah.
so 1994 was the one that I did under Michael Jackson's label, which you can't get anywhere at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did another album that was unreleased in 1996, and that had Aaron Neville on it, and Robin Ford, and it was Greg Fillinganes and Dean Parks from Steely Dan, and yeah, I know. So that's
This stuff.
what's that?
Where is this stuff?
It's sitting on a DAT, and some reels in a box, and and the reason that didn't get released was because Michael Jackson sold the label like that year, and they, you know, it was really kind. They kind of, you know, they said we don't want you to be a part of who has bought it, so they let me go because they said you won't survive, and it's just it's a money thing. So they let me out of the contract, which was great. But then we have this unreleased album, which, you know, weirdly, um, I, as much as what there are incredible players on there, and there's some good stuff on there, it's not the album that we wanted. It was very polished, and it didn't have any of the fire and the aggression and the, you know, the stuff that made me me. It was pretty slick, slick and conservative album. I mean, you got we had, yeah, again, great players on it, but it's just an example of like, if you know, your heart is your heart, and it doesn't, you can have all the best players in the world, it doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna do what you want it to do. And but yeah, and then I experimented with a couple bands. Like I fronted a band called Nat Cole and the Kings, and that was with a drummer that used to be in the Screaming Jets, and that was a really heavy blues rock band. That's kind of when I had a lot of the problems with anxiety. So, you know, we released some stuff under Nat Cole and the Kings because I didn't want to use my name as well, and I'm glad that I didn't, because I felt like I was still trying to find myself as a front man, as a singer guitar player, not as just a guitar player. And I didn't want to burn my name along the way. And but then who actually encouraged me to go to rethink using my name. So keep in mind, by that stage, like from my teenage years up until then, I didn't really see my name as a good thing. It was something that was kind of a bit embarrassing, a bit like, it was almost like, you know, imagine if you saw a photo of yourself and what you wore, like, you know, 10 years ago or whatever, and you're like, oh, I can't believe I had, you know, hair like that or whatever. That's kind of how I felt about my name. And that's also why I just wanted to use Nat Cole and the Kings. And until one day, Ash Grummel, we were on the same bill together, and he comes up to me and he goes, "Man, like, killer show, but can I be completely honest with you?" And I went, "Yeah." And he's like, "Why the fuck are you not using your name?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Man, I grew up with you. Like, you've got a history that so many artists will never get in their lifetime. Like, why are you not using that? You should be proud of that." And you know, I really looked up to Ash, and I got the same response from Lindsay from Frenzal Rom, and all of these, you know, people in the music industry that I kind of weirdly assumed that they saw my name and the stigma of my name like I did, as something that's a bit cringy, and then that's kind of what gave me the cue to kind of investigate and challenge my beliefs. And it came at a good time because I was having all that anxiety. So the band, we called it quits. And then when I started to write songs during that, you know, during that period, with no intention of releasing it, by the way, because at that time I didn't even believe I could get up on stage. I looked at the songs and I went, "These are me," you know, and I think this is, I want to do this under my own name. I got to do that. So, and I'm so glad I did, you know. It's and here's the honest feedback, you know, like that. I don't know, like people specifically today, there's just this culture at the moment where it's like, you know, don't give an opinion unless, you know, you're up, like, unless it's asked for. And, you know, whilst sometimes there's you know, that's important, sometimes somebody just needs to hear it, you know. And I didn't ask for that opinion, but it changed my life. The fact that he gave it to me, you know. He was very tactful and respectful in the way he did. I think that's important. But yeah.
Would you say, you know, now that you're in a much better place, you know, mentally, everything, you're performing and all that, That's very much in your past. But do you feel that now that you see with the response, obviously a lot of old timers, but also you're getting new fans, it's sort of, are you sort of seeing your time in your early days
Mm,
performing, considering how popular you were amongst the greats of the
mm.
greats, that maybe you were more than just a gimmick? Have you accepted that,
Yeah,
would you say,
yeah.
or?
It feels like I'm being like I'm blowing smoke up my own ass when I say that, and it's taken me a long time to get confident and in that. But yeah, 100%. I look back at footage of me now, as hard as what it is to watch, and I go, like I couldn't do a solo like that now. Like that's and I can, whilst I could never see me how they saw me, I get it. Like I do get it because I see other kids at that time that are just kind of going through the motions of playing the shadows and it's just but there was a fire and a heart and that goes way beyond just the technical skills that you can't teach, and that's obviously what they felt, and and that re-inspired me. Like it's an interesting thing. The past is an interesting thing because it's been the source of a lot of suffering for me, but it's also been the source of a lot of inspiration, and it's a pendulum. Sometimes it really inspires me, and other times it creates problems. And in the early, throughout my 20s and stuff like that, it created problems because I'm trying to run away from it, right? So there's the shame and then the cringe and all that type of stuff. Then there's the inspiration because when I needed to face my fears to get back up on stage, I drew on those memories to show me, hey, I can do that. Like that was me. If I can do it then, I can do it now. And just what and possibility, like I could never have like imagined that I would have had those experiences, like that could be a reality, and they happened. So inspiration in terms of anything can happen, anything is actually possible. And then a recent realization was that from a career perspective at the moment, because I'm an independent well, no, I'm signed to ABC, but I am self-managed and I've got a great team, an incredible team around me. But I am sort of overseeing things, and the mind can play tricks on you when because a lot of artists, they just give that stuff over to their manager. They don't really know about how tickets are going at every point in the day or streams or blah blah blah. They just do their thing. Whereas I have to pay attention to that stuff because I also have to problem solve along the way. So that can really like mess. So and what I worked out recently is that I subconsciously am allowing my past. I'm allowing my past to belittle what I've got now. I mean, if I was to compare the audiences I'm playing to now and what I've got going on in my life now compared to back then, I mean, like, how could you ever compete with playing at Madison Square Garden or 90,000 people at the Paralympic opening ceremony or any of that stuff? You just can't. And at the same time, you can't allow the past to belittle what you've got now, because where you are now is where you should be, and then everything then from that point on is about progress, and as soon as you start to get into the world of comparing, whether you're comparing yourself to somebody else or yourself of the past or even your visions of the future too much, you'll never be fucking happy. So
Yeah, because look, just letting you know, like, because I don't know if you remember that gig that I saw you at the Plight. There was an old dude who brought out a guitar. I'll pick one of your PV
yeah,
signatures for you to sign. I was like, but to me, that's more than just a novelty. It's obviously something that's spoken to him. He's got a copy of
yeah,
that guitar. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
It's and my friends, like, we're roughly the same age. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So a lot of my friends, you know, we don't have a recollection of oh, that's that
yeah,
kid, oh yeah, oh yeah.
yeah,
Nah, it was
yeah,
much more than that.
yeah.
You know,
Interesting.
I'll just put that out there, man.
Thanks,
It's
man.
just,
Yeah,
now you're
yeah,
back, you're on the other side. you're in a positive space. You've built
Yeah,
mechanisms to build your mental strength
yeah,
and health, and now you're performing great stuff live. Like you've been touring and stuff. Um, so what about you've now got a program that you've designed to
yeah,
assist other
yeah.
performers with
It's actually in
anxiety.
development at the moment. So I've been wanting to do this for a long time. Is that the amount of times throughout those dark periods where I would discover something, piece of information, hear a story, and I go, God, how is that not in a bloody handbook, like for musicians? Like, if that was, and I was educated on all these things, in the early days, none of this would happen. Like, and the more I started to have conversations on the other side of that dark patch with other, with other musicians, it became clear that it's a lack of education on the aspects of being human in relation to being a performer, and it's stuff that often people in sport are taught, athletes, or high performance, but we're not often taught that this stuff as musicians. Like, if the story of most musicians, professional musicians, is they've got some songs, they're having a jam with their mates, and then they play their first gig. Cool, we've got our first gig book, and then they just throw themselves onto the stage. That's it, right? And then let's just say they have a hit song, right? Now they got a manager, and now they got a label or whatever, and now they got to do a big tour, and then they just throw themselves. Okay, so wow, I've got to be on the plane here, bang, 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 and then you just do it, and some people can do that, and other people, man, that's a huge, huge challenge of the mind and the body, and it can really be quite shocking what the mind and the body goes through, which is all natural systems when you are a performer. And so the purpose of this course, online course that I'm putting together, is to just educate people and give them all the knowledge and the tools that I wished I had not only when I first started out, but even when I was having problems with anxiety later on, so that there aren't any surprises. Like, we can kind of unveil a lot of the mysteries, and challenge a lot of the reasons why many of us artists think there's something wrong with us, and I want to put it all into a course, and that's, so I'm probably about halfway through it now. So, and then I'm booking workshops at the moment alongside the tour dates, because I'm touring the East Coast from August, and that'll be a solo. So it'll be my first full-blown solo shows, as well as full band in certain areas. And so I want to do workshops that focus on these aspects of being a performer as well. So yeah.
That's great. Yeah. So we'll just stay tuned.
Yeah.
We'll keep up to date with updates as to how it's going. Everyone, just check Nathan's website and his social media bios as well for links. I'm
Yeah.
sure there'll be more information coming
Yeah.
soon as to the release of
Yeah.
that. That's great. That's great to see. It's very
Yeah.
positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's good to
Yeah.
see.
Thank you, mate.
Mm. Uh,
Yeah.
what, oh no worries, man. Like, and look, and just to see like where you're at now is just it's so good. I'm really
Yeah.
happy for you that you've reached where you are
Yeah.
just with your touring, but also your new album,
Yeah.
which you released last year.
Miracles. Yeah.
Miracles is the name of the album. Can you just briefly just explain to me? Obviously, it's not straight blues. It's sort of like an earthy, sort of folky feel, which is really nice. I like it. To your music now,
Mm.
would you say how did you navigate yourself to find a sound that you're finally happy with that really shows what you're all about?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like a junction between like, I like lots of different types of music, and but when I write a song, the song pretty much dictates the type of production and sounds that are gonna eventuate. And with time, as these songs began to come together, there were lots of things in common, and that's kind of how you find that sound. That I go, all right, I mean, for one, I didn't just want to make a guitar album. This is the same with the Demons album, but I'm particularly proud of the Miracles album. I wanted something that was guitar based, and and I can express myself through the guitar, but it's just as important that I'm expressing myself through voice and lyrics. And as far as the sounds are concerned, uh, I was listening to a lot of production that kind of had almost a bit throwback surfy sort of, lots of sort of, mod, verby, um, euphoric type sounds like you would hear with Lana Del Rey, but then mixed with some really rock and Brit stuff as well. And I love that combination between those edgy guitars and a bit of acoustic, and then you've got those trem delays, and you know, I don't know, it just, and then some songs really call for those whimsical velvety sounds, and then others just called for absolute sleaze, and where you're just digging in, and it's banging, and it's actually really exciting to finally get to play these songs with a full band, drums, bass, keys, sax. It's really something. Like, because I haven't played with a full band, my stuff with a full band, since Nat Con the Kings, and that ended in 2012. So it's but then to also play it solo in an intimate way, which, by the way, solo doesn't necessarily mean lay back. Like, it's still very electric and pumping. That's got its own charm in a different way. So yeah, I'm very, very proud of Miracles, and I produced it myself, but I also when I mixed it, I was working with Andrew Sheps on it. And I don't know if you guys know Andrew Sheps, but Andrew Sheps is an amazing mix engineer, and he's kind of like the Rick Rubin of mix engineers. Like, he's done anybody from Chili Peppers to Rival Sons to Lana Del Rey and Kaleo, and so I was lucky enough to have him oversee my mixes and just kind of give me little notes along the way. And I think Miracles as well, contrast to Demons. Whilst Demons was about exploring, and it's all about exploring, so it's the exploring never ends. Miracles was about just kind of going boom. I'm proud. I've got something to say, and I'm going to push the boundaries, and I'm going to challenge all of my beliefs and fears. And you can hear me pushing the envelope on that album, definitely, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really enjoy listening to that album, and the songs obviously live are banging. They just go off. So, and my favorite song is Carencia.
Cool.
That is my favorite song. They're all great, but I like the Mark Knopfler sort of feel to it. The Dire Straits sort of feel, like, not that you're ripping them off. I mean, we're all influenced by someone, right? And sometimes influences come through, but man, it's so good, man. I really like it.
Thank you, mate. Yeah, it's really good. It's very interesting to hear what songs people are connected to. So, thanks.
And you're definitely connecting. Thanks. That's for sure.
Thanks,
and I just want to just quickly talk about connecting through Twitch.
Oh yeah,
through Twitch streaming. So you got quite a prominent following on Twitch, which is funny. Like, how did that happen? Like,
funny. Like, after this chat, I'll be on. I've got my regular Twitch at 5 p.m. as well. So I'll be getting onto that shortly. But the Twitch came about. I mean, this is talk about like the ways of the world, and when these things happen, I do intend to believe that there's just other forces at play, and you've got to listen to the world. And so I do this chat for the Starlight Foundation in Adelaide one year, and just by complete coincidence, I'm sitting next to who I don't know is one of the biggest gamers on Twitch in Australia and in a lot of parts of the world. And I don't know that, and he was a big fan, And he just, yeah, educated me on the world of Twitch. And at the time, I was kind of dabbling in YouTube, and I had this idea of creating YouTube episodes as I tour. And then I also realized just the workload of creating a YouTube episode. You know, it's not just the filming and the capturing, it's the editing, it's the post. It's, you know, it's like a, and and I was starting to realize its limitations for me at the time in terms of my resources. And then he's like, man, Twitch. And I'm like, yeah, it's a gaming platform. It's like, nah, man, like there are musicians on there, and they're pushing into a space of, you know, other different types of creators that go beyond gaming. And so I put it off for about 6 months, because, you know, I was like, how many plates do I want to spin here? You know, like, it really is hard to kind of work out where a musician is going to get paid. And I'm not somebody who's complaining about this stuff, but it's after a while you got to go, you're spending all this time for, you know, okay, you got to pay your bills. So I'm like, this is another platform. And I went, fuck it. You know, he was on my, he invited me on his stream to talk about the Starlight Foundation as a charity stream. And I'm like, yeah, no worries. And I look at the live, like on like his channel as I'm on, just like I am here. And I text him on the side. I'm like, what's 125,000? Is that how many like views you've had of your channel? And he's like, no, that's how many people are watching you right now. I'm like, what? And then, so it gave me the idea of like just how big Twitch is. And luckily I started a channel that day, and boom, like 10,000 followers. And so that gave me a real kickstart. And then I just fell in love with the experience. I gave myself a deal. I said, all right, do it for 3 months, put all you can into it 3 times a week, and just see what happens. And it's been one of the best additions, you know, like, and it really grew. It's kind of, you know, it goes up and down, you know, especially now on the other side of COVID, just like anything. And, but I think number one is like when you start whatever it is you're doing, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, or whatever, you gotta love what you do, because it's a process, you know. And Twitch, the reason why I'm still on it after 4 years is because I love it, you know. It's just I just love it. And there are dry patches where you just like, and it's the only platform, or was at the time, where your community can financially support you, you know, through subscribing. Like no other platform had that at the time except for Patreon. And and it's amazing how generous people are. If you have the facility, you know, I suppose I'm speaking to the artists out there. If you have a means for people to be able to financially support you, your diehard fans will. They'll give you the love. And that was the model with Twitch. So Shireen knows, don't you? And so does Smack. There's a couple actually from Twitch here now. So
Oh, cool. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Just to see the reach. You know, obviously it's international reach as well, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. I mean, social media these days, streaming. It's just brought it's. I mean, getting your music out there or your brand known is just so. We're able to manage a lot of that ourselves now as influencers, or as you probably would agree that you are. Yeah, it's changed the whole industry has changed now, isn't it? Hasn't it? So
Yeah.
no, it's cool.
And then just like anything, there's always going to be problems. You know, it's like people complain a lot, right? And I do. You know, in my head, I've got that whinging, nagging. You know, this is not right. This is you know, blah blah blah. But you know, people can talk a kind of about the specifics about who's ripping who off and blah, you know, all that type of stuff. But on the overall, people were whinging about the music industry in the 90s as well when I was there, you know, how hard it is for this and how hard it is for that. And it's the same now, but for different reasons. And it'll always be like that. There will always be a reason to complain. And our job is one, to just hold on to what we got and continue to believe in it, which is something, you know, I struggle with sometimes. And the rest is just puzzle solving, learning puzzle solving, learning puzzle solving, and then sometimes riding that wave of emotion when it gets too much. You know, like I think the way that I see things now is that I can create something, and I don't need a middleman to approve anything for it to get to the people. You know, like it'd be a bonus if a whole heap of playlists on Spotify went, yeah, we love it, but that's no different to, you know, how it was with radio and all that type of stuff. Like, but back then we couldn't even get our stuff to the people. You know, we needed somebody to invest in it because we weren't, you know, it's much more expensive to create an album back then as what it is now. Even if we could afford it, well, then what? Like, all you can do is sell it at your gigs. But if you want any type of reach or any availability in your local area or country or whatever, you need to be distributed. That means you needed a distributor. So the distributor needed to believe in you. And if you didn't sell X amount, whatever, even if they did, then you're off the shelves. And right now we have access to the whole world. And so you can be a niche artist and make a really great living out of it. Because niche here in Australia might not amount to much, but if it's niche here in Australia, niche in America, niche in Sweden, or whatever it is, it all adds up, you know. But, you know, what'll be interesting is to see how we go with AI, though. But let's not get started on that one.
I saw a couple of posts of you like with your opinion on that, but and because some of this stuff is real, isn't it? It's not like Justin Timberlake, for example, the other day got charged for a DUI. They turned his mugshot into him drinking a bottle of beer
Oh, wow.
from the mugshot.
Oh.
Thinking like this, and then he's like this. You know, I'm not, but it looked real. I was like,
no, that's scary.
and with music now, they can like copy anything,
Yeah,
really, isn't
I don't,
it?
yeah, I actually don't rant much because I don't feel like I don't want to contribute to the pile of negativity that's bringing people down, but I had to say something about that one. Like it was just, yeah, I had to. And it's, I suppose, one thing that blows, like you can't change progress and how things evolve and all that. But one thing I scratch my head at is this whole thing of like, put something out there before you consider the impact or even just whether you're breaking rules. Like to me, like AI, like when Napster came out, I mean, Napster was at an interesting time where people weren't even like, from memory, people weren't even consuming, their main means of consuming music wasn't even on digitally. It was, we were still going to the CD store, most of us. And so the digital world in terms of intellectual property and all that stuff was still really, it was hard to understand that. So I can understand how like the law, you know, the legal system really needed to catch up and understand and get educated or whatever. With AI, there's, to me, it's like, how are you any different to a sample library? You know, like you're recontextualizing things, you're referring to something and then somebody else can make money. Like, you know, like it's, yeah. And yeah, whatever.
I guess as an artist, but you know, putting your own stuff in the world. I mean, if you'd have to sort of make it official for yourself, especially like on your socials. You know, if you're a verified artist, you know what I'm saying. Like things would have to be made very clear that whether it's official or not.
Well, yeah,
You know,
I
to
think,
ward off all these
yeah,
other
that's right.
copycats.
There's lots of issues. One of them, one thing that I've noticed, the change in my personal behavior is now anytime somebody sends me a track, I'm going, is this AI? How much AI? Now that's sad. Like there's, you know, I had a friend, or was not a friend, but just a random who, through my website sent me something that they said they were really proud of, right? Now I heard the guitar and the voice and the background of the person, and it didn't add up. I was like, you sound like you've been touring for 20 years, you know, and but you're telling me you've never left the bedroom and whatever, and I just sadly didn't buy it. And that is sad because this could be a really talented person there that, you know, like a Susan Boyle or something like that hasn't been discovered. And now this person has to go above and beyond to try and convince whoever they're sending their tunes to that they are real. And, you know, so I don't like that music now for a lot of people is going to be received with a certain amount of skepticism. It should be, music should just be received. You know, you hear it and you go and you feel whatever it is, not just like, is this? And so I feel like I would love to see, you know, somebody said, well, how's that different to DJs? Well, DJs still kind of, one, they disclose what they're using and recontextualizing because they have to. And two, they are creatively kind of manipulating things. And there's a lot of talent that goes into that. But mainly, you know what you're receiving when you go and you watch a DJ, you're listening to a DJ, you know. But the AI creating tunes, I'd love to see it labeled so you know. Yeah, it'll be an interesting puzzle to see how it solves out. And I definitely feel strongly about any artist should be able to have the option as to whether they want to be in the AI database or not. You know, just like no different to when I distribute my track, I have to click a box that says, do you want it to be on YouTube? Do you want it to be on Google? You know, this, blah, blah, blah. AI should be a box as well. And then we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see if we catch up to AI because it's all moving so fast, you know, and all these advancements are being made. And you're right, like we shouldn't have to feel like, you know, speculation as to that excitement. Where's the excitement now? Like, you know, back in the day, you know, I know maybe I'm showing my age here. Like, going to the record store, you know, CDs, you're looking through. You spend all day for hours there listening to the like the CDs on the headphones, and that excitement is gone. Obviously, I mean, but I mean, there's an element of it that is still like obviously through Spotify now is the one of the major platforms, isn't it? And Apple Music and all that. The excitement is still there, but it's being watered down a lot, especially now, like you're saying with AI. That's
well,
what we have to do.
I'm trying to work because, you know, my kids are almost 10 and 8, and they didn't show the same type of musical interest as what I did, but they're starting to show it now. Now, when I was a kid, as soon as I showed interest, my parents hooked me up with a means of being able to listen to whatever I wanted to listen to. Mum gave me her little single record player that she had as a kid and a whole bunch of singles, vinyl, and said, go to town, you know, play whatever you want to play. And I'd sit there with my headphones or the hi-fi system and just listen to it. And then I'd make mixtapes, you know, of like, oh, I like this song. So then I'd record that. And, you know, I had a way to be able to cultivate that interest with my kids because they're not at the age where I'm going to give them iPhones just yet. I'm trying to work out what that is because, you know, like our entertainment systems generally now are involved with the screen, whereas back when I was growing up, you had the hi-fi system over there or in another room, and then the TV was over there. And I love that. You know, it's a shift in space, mental space as well. So I'm trying to work out what I can give my boys, so that they can start to, you know, listen and discover, you know, what they love instead of going flick, 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 you know, 2 seconds, bang, next track, 2 seconds, next track. I'm also interested in like say on, I mean, do you find the most flary content in terms of guitar, you know, the guitar that's your focus is the stuff that gets the most reach compared to if you post a really slow paced, melodic, spacious solo, how will that compare to a guy fucking just absolutely ripping it? Do you notice a difference?
Well, that's the thing. Like you really back in the day, and I'm sure you'd agree, what was popular in the pop charts was more. You had
Mm,
more bands. You had more, like real musicians. There was the pop stars, obviously, but even the quality of the pop,
mm,
like was. You're talking about Greg
mm,
Fillinganes. He was
mm,
everywhere.
mm,
His
mm,
history. Man, that guy was just a legend. 70s, 80s, like. You know what I'm saying? That these are top notch, like
mm,
top of the range
mm,
artists. He's a keyboardist.
mm,
Toto, like their session with Quincy and
mm,
all that
mm,
legendary, all those musicians. The quality was different. And also met the bands. But now, what's in pop
mm,
isn't really the same quality.
mm,
You just have to admit it's not.
mm.
But you have to search
Yeah,
for it. They're there. The quality's there, but you have to really dig
yeah,
down and really search for it yourself.
yeah. You do. Yeah, different type of
Mm.
discovery process.
Mm.
Yeah,
I just want to say also because I was just I don't know if you've been to
yeah,
Parramatta much, but which is where I'm
yeah.
at. But there's a CD store called Beat Disc. I don't know if you've ever seen it or heard of it. They've been around for a long time.
Okay.
Ever since I was in
Yeah,
school,
right.
I was going there. But the guy that worked there, he now owns it. He's owned it for years
Yeah.
now, and I just caught up with him. And there's now a resurgence in vinyl
Oh,
and
yeah,
CDs,
yeah.
isn't it? Among
I
young
didn't
kids,
expect
he said there was a good
CDs.
10-year
So
period.
CDs as
Yeah,
well.
he said there's a good 10. Yeah,
Right.
he said there was a 10-year period where kids weren't looking for music, but it's picked up the last few years, and now it's full of vinyls. There were no vinyls when I was a
Yeah,
kid,
yeah,
when I was like 13 years old going there.
yeah,
But now the view of everything's changed. Now vinyls are more expensive than
yeah.
CDs.
Vinyls
Isn't that
are
funny?
insane. I caught my dad like when they were moving house. He had his whole vinyl collection just sitting on the junk pile, ready to be thrown in the skip bin. And I went, "What the f are you doing?" Like, and I'm pulling out some of the vinyl. I'm like, "You got Tim Buckley here. You got Led Zeppelin. You got." You know how much that is worth? Like, even if you wanted to sell that, it's like a $400 vinyl. Like, and so I'm not. And he's yeah. So
The original.
I've got it now. Yeah, they're originals, but I think it's great to see that vinyl is. I didn't expect CD would pick up, but somebody did tell me that. And I know a lot of bands that still travel with CDs. They still sell CDs at gigs. So yeah, who knows? The pendulum swings.
Yeah, and we just have to keep AI at bay. I think we just got to take control of it ourselves. I think maybe
Yeah,
until the record labels do something about it. I don't know.
yeah, they'll sort it out. Hopefully, like they did with after Napster and stuff. And I think on an upside, hopefully it just you'd like to think it reminds people of the importance of just human created music, that people may crave just seeing a performance a little more. So yeah.
Cool. I know we're running out of time here. I've got a couple of silly questions.
Yeah,
They're like,
far away.
not too silly.
Yeah.
Because I know you got the
Mhm.
Twitch stream at 5. So just okay. What's your favorite food? Tell me.
Oh, actually, at the moment, I would say for a while, it's pizza, man. It's hard for me to go past a good wood-fired pizza. I just want a simple pepperoni, olive, and chili wood-fired pizza. That's how you get into my pants.
Okay, not Domino's and Pizza Hut.
No, wood
Domino's and
fire.
Pizza Hut, no,
No, no.
no.
Although
Okay.
I did grow up on Pizza Hut though. Those all-you-can-eat bars and those little marshmallow, ice cream
The
things. Damn.
restaurant,
Yeah.
yeah. Those are the days. Cool. One last
Yeah.
question. Okay, life or death situation. You need to hear a guitar solo from one of 4 guitarists. I'm going to tell you, and otherwise you die.
Okay.
Right. So who are you going? Who are you going to? Whose solo will you accept? Eric Clapton, Stevie Ray Vaughan, BB King, or Mark Knopfler?
But
Whose solo?
Martin Knopfler. Yeah.
Ah,
100%.
yes,
Martin Knopfler.
for
And
sure.
that's a really tough choice. I was gonna say, like, when you're saying Eric Clapton, is it Eric Clapton from Cream or is it Eric Clapton later? Because they're like two completely
Oh,
different
it
players.
is. Yeah,
But
it
I
is.
think
Oh, that's a good question.
yeah, I think that was really hard because you just named three of my favorite guitar players of all time there, all in one. But I reckon Mark Knopfler. Uh, yeah, that's great. That's yeah. I feel like
To survive, it's, life or death. Mark Knopfler
yeah,
is the one.
yeah.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
gonna say so. Yeah, King is gonna be rolling his grave about that. I gave you 5 weeks on tour, man.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah,
It's funny. It's cool to know about how he's sold all his guitars as well. Just a side point, but
yeah,
Knopfler, he had that auction recently with all his
incredible.
favorite guitars.
Yeah,
What a collection!
yeah.
Did you see?
I
Oh
know,
man,
I know. Yeah.
what a legend! What a legend! Hey, Nathan, thank you for your time.
Thank
I really
you.
appreciate it for being here and letting me be the first one to interview you on IG
Yeah, I
Live.
know.
Thank you.
Totally. Yeah. We should do it more often. But
Yeah,
thank you, mate. I appreciate it and love what you do too. So
thank
thanks for
you.
keeping the
Thank
guitars
you. Yeah.
alive, mate.
Yes, for sure. Likewise, and I'll catch you at a gig. We'll have a beer and
Super keen.
catch up then. So
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, sounds
All
good.
right. See you
Right,
guys. See ya, everyone.
take
Bye.
care. Bye bye.